For exclusive content, visit Seagulls Player.
I'd like now for you to give a warm welcome to the stage to a man who epitomises the bright, new, shining age of modern football, the Albion's Chief Executive, Mr. Paul Barber.
Wow, that's a scary introduction, that is.
Well, welcome to the rope tackle.
Thank you, John.
And just first of all, I'm going to get onto the obvious question in a minute, but I mean, how do you take us after? How do you feel about us in terms of your previous appointments, all the other things you've done? How do you relate to the Albion? Are we a bit different?
A bit different, yeah, I think it's fair to say. But it's a fantastic club. I think what went on, as John just described, was nothing short of remarkable. I was talking to a few people before we started tonight, and I think this story is probably the most remarkable story in football, partly because I don't think that the reality is caught up with people's perceptions, or perceptions are caught up with reality. There's a lot of people in the country that don't realise what's been achieved at the Albion over the last 3 years. And I think when you look around the Amex, you look around 26,000 people, you look about what's happening down the road here at the training ground, you look about the progress that's been made in 3 years, it's been unbelievable. And I feel sort of a lot of gratitude, not only to the supporters that, as John said and led the club to be saved, but also to Martin and Tony and Dick before him that have put the club where it is. It's, for me, I've got the easy job, relatively speaking, of taking it on in the next stage. All the hard work, frankly, has been done.
Well, you have a much easier job than one of your forebears, a certain Mr. David Bellotti, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I shouldn't really swear in the rope tackle. No, I'll never swear. You know me, I never swear. Anyway, I mean, the point, I suppose, that the first point, you know, the thing we're talking about most at the moment, obviously, is the striker problem. And what I want to do...
I'm glad that donkey had no relation to
no,
my
well, I was about... I maybe someone said something down here. I sort of mouthed Farrington. Well, I didn't actually say it. I thought maybe... But we're talking about the striker problem. Now, I want to put all this in its context, because there's been lots of talk recently about financial fair play. This at a time when, of course, you know, Coventry are going through what we've been through. They're now owned by a hedge fund and playing their home games at Northampton. When small clubs go out of business for the price of a Premier League, a week's salary for a Premier League player. They're going on about financial fair play. It seems to me that it's a complete pile of nonsense. Financial fair play. Okay, first of all, the three clubs who come down from the Premier League get such massive parachute payments that it excuse it completely. B, it's obvious that many of the clubs in our division, including one, allegedly the one we played last week, aren't taking a notice of it anyway. And C, as we know from our previous relationship with the FA, i.e. going to the Centre of Dispute Resolution of the CBI to trying to save the Albion because the FA said, we can't do anything about it. They don't actually impose penalties, really. They don't actually do anything. So do you think financial fair play actually is going to happen?
I thought there was a question coming.
Yeah.
I mean, financial fair play is a challenge for two reasons. First of all, John's right. There is a lot of inequality in this division at the moment. On the one hand, you've got the clubs with parachute payments that have got incredible budgets relative to a club like ourselves. And then you've got those clubs like ourselves that are trying to run the business as effectively as we can, get as many people through the door as we can, generate as much sponsorship as we can, and try and put as much of that money back onto the field as we can. And then you've got those clubs that have come up from a lower division who at the moment are sort of wondering what the hell's going on, because they're looking at some of the clubs in the division paying 20, 30, 40,000 pounds a week for a striker, and they're looking at perhaps having that for their entire playing budget for 1 week. So there is a lot of inequality, but what the Football League are trying to do is to bring some sense to that. And in some ways I agree with John, which might be the only time tonight, so let's enjoy it. We are struggling to get to grips with something which at the moment just doesn't feel fair. But on the other hand, getting the club under control and getting the numbers right is a good thing for football. And one thing that we can't ever allow to happen again, certainly to this football club, is to find itself in the position that it was in all those years ago, which led to the hard work that went on with the fans. We have got to run the club on a sound commercial footing. And that means taking some tough decisions. It means taking some, at times, unpopular decisions. But we've also got to try and stay within these rules, not just because the rules are there, but because actually it's good for the football club and it's ultimately good for the game. Whether the rest of them follow, frankly, I can't control that. We can't control that. We can only do what we can do to make sure this football club is in the best financial health it can be in. And then the league has to do what it has to do. Now, in this case, it's not the FA, it's not John's nemesis that would ultimately impose sanctions, it's the league. And the league have got to show, in my opinion, that they mean business. And so far, it's early days. We don't know. There are certainly some clubs that seem to be sailing close to the wind. There are some clubs like us that are trying bloody hard to make it work. And frankly, there are some clubs that don't seem to have a bloody clue what's going on. And that's a worry, because the league have laid out the rules pretty clearly. They've laid out the sanctions pretty clearly. And now we have to wait probably until January of 15 to find out whether they're actually going to do anything about it once those numbers are in. So it's early days, John. But what I do know is that football can't keep going on spending more money than it's bringing in, because in my experience of business, that's a pretty quick way of going out of business. And we can't keep assuming that someone's going to come along and save football clubs time and time again. And therefore, we've got to make sure we take this seriously.
I completely agree with you about that. I mean, obviously, for all of us that went through the awful times, the rot at the Albion started, as those people who were old enough to remember will know, after our FA Cup defeat in the final in 1983, when we had a lot of players on very long contracts, mentioning no names, Steve Gatty, who were on very long contracts, who didn't play that much, and that's where the finances started to go wrong. So there's absolutely no disagreement there. The next point, the point I've really got to make, and this is a point that a lot of people have been making, is it's the kind of relationship between that and what is happening right now. Now, you have pointed out many times, quite correctly, that we're not the club that we were. We all know that. I completely accept that. I mean, I'm very much part of the old school in my football support, but I completely recognise that we're in a completely new situation. And for the likes of us that went through all the really hard years, that kind of logic, the deferred gratification logic, if you like, holds true absolutely. I mean, it's not going to worry. I'll be a bit fed up, obviously, if we finish, say, 15th in the table this season, because we don't have another fit striker until February or whatever. But it won't stop me supporting the Albion. It won't dim my appreciation. But the point I've got to make to you is this: we're now in this brand new stadium, and as you said memorably a few times, I'm sorry to dig here. We're customers, right? Okay, we're not. Both. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm actually a fan, but some people probably. I'm sure there are many people out there who've started to come, including the chap who asked me about the why we sold the Goldston, and halfway through the season still couldn't tell the difference between Adelaide and Bruno, even when one of them wasn't playing. I'm sure many of them would be quite happy to describe themselves as customers. And the point about it is that of those 26,000 people now, we've probably got about 10 to 12,000 who are like us, like me, like all of us that went through everything. Yeah. And then there's probably another 12,000 who really are customers. They've come because we've got a brand new stadium, because it looks nice, because they think, oh, Brighton have got a brand new stadium, and they're not playing in that horrible little place anymore, and they're in the Championship, and they played Arsenal last season, and Newcastle. I'll get a season ticket. Now, one of the things that is patently obvious to all of us at about 75 minutes, if we're losing... I don't know about you lot, I've never seen so many people leave in such large numbers. Now, I'm not having a go here, because I know there's lots of issues about the transport, but they don't tend to leave as much if we're doing well. If we're winning, they tend to stay longer. My point, Paul, is if we don't get it now, if we don't give them instant... Forget deferred gratification for that lot. They have to have instant gratification over and over and over again, or they won't renew their season tickets. And then the whole project, while not being completely derailed, I mean, if we've got 18,000 season ticket holders next season, because due to the financial restrictions that you view we are in, we can't do any more, then that is, if you like, we are in a double bind. Because if we don't invest in the short term to give the people that need the instant gratification, that striker, those results that keep us, if not in the playoffs, near the playoffs, then they're not going to renew their season tickets, and the whole thing starts to fall apart a little bit.
Have faith. Have faith. We've got to start somewhere. I mean, this club lost a generation of fans, so we can't reinvent you. We can't.
Fortunately, some people would say.
We can't multiply you. We can't suddenly produce another 10,000 hardcore
But
fans.
Paul, they're there. They are coming now, and what we need to do is keep them
Absolutely.
at all costs.
But we need more of them, John. We need more. We can't just accept that we're averaging 26,000 fans, and we've got a database of 40, 50,000 people that we go to for individual match day tickets. We need that number to be 100,000, 150,000. If you look at where our supporters come from, they're mainly in Brighton and Hove. We've barely touched any other part of the county yet. If you map where people buy tickets from for the Albion, it's essentially in the city.
But we'll only get them by having a consistently performing team.
Of course, and I think
week in, week out.
If you go back to where we were just 3 seasons ago and what's been achieved in the first season back in the Championship, consolidation, second season back in the Championship, playoff semi-finals, third season back in the Championship, we've had a change of management, we've had a number of injuries, which every club will get at some point. You usually expect 3, 4, 5 injuries in a season. You don't usually expect them all in the same position. It happens. But the problem is you can't just flex out your budget and say, well, we've got 3 or 4 injuries, we need to go and buy 3 or 4 other players. It's just not possible to do that because you're still paying the wages. There's no insurance out there that enables us to go and claim for the weekly wages of Mikhail Smith or Ulloa. We just can't. It's just not possible. No one insures you in that way. So we've got to find, within the budget we've got, room to go out and bring in 1 or 2 reinforcements as loan players. But that is a challenge. First of all, not every club in the country has players sitting there doing nothing that they want to loan to us. Secondly, those players then need to want to come to us. Thirdly, we need then to be able to afford them. Fourthly, the manager's got to want them. Fifthly, those clubs that are loaning them usually want to guarantee that we're going to play them, and no manager will want to guarantee they're going to play anybody. So these loan challenges are not quite as easy as having a big long list and going down first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, because very quickly you can get to the 10th choice and you still haven't got a loan player in. So, and by the way, there's also a number of other clubs out there looking for loan players in the same position at the same time, and some are in better positions, some are in a worse position than us. So please, it's not a case of David Burke and the guys not trying. There's a lot of efforts going on, and we're talking at the moment to 2 or 3 different players, and we hope to get at least one of those in very short order. But that's not to say nothing's been done over the last 2 or 3 weeks either. So it is difficult. I hear what you say. We've got to keep the momentum going. We've got to keep winning football matches. At the end of the day, everything that we do, Martin, myself, Michael Edwards, everybody around the football club that wears a suit as opposed to a tracksuit is about doing as much as we can to help the guys win football matches. Because at the end of the day, we can do the best marketing in the world. We can do anything we want to do around the stadium, make it as pretty as it. People just want to see us win football matches. Fans want to see us win football matches. That's what will get people coming back. That's what will get people coming more. That's what will get them staying to 93rd minute. We know that. We're absolutely on top of that. It's just that there are 23 other teams in the division that want to do exactly the same thing. And that makes it probably, for me, certainly the most competitive league that I've worked in. And I've been lucky enough to work in the Premier League over in North America. These leagues are tough leagues, but this league is one of the toughest in the world, if not the toughest. I really believe that.